The Russian Empire was one of the largest empires in human history. By the late 19th century, it covered about 1/6 of the world's landmass, stretching across northern Eurasia and reaching into regions as distant as Alaska before its sale to the United States. But size alone did not make it stable. The empire contained many ethnic groups, languages, religions, climates, economies, and ways of life. It was ruled from the center by an autocratic monarch who claimed final authority over the whole system. That made the empire powerful on maps, but difficult to govern in reality. Its story is the story of a state that expanded enormously, modernized unevenly, and eventually collapsed under the pressure of war, social inequality, and political change. Before Russia became an empire, its foundations were built by the rulers of Moscow. Medieval Russian lands had been fragmented, influenced by noble families known as boyars, and shaped by the legacy of Tatar domination. Ivan III, who ruled from 1462 to 1505, played a major role in changing that. He expanded Moscow's power, strengthened central authority, and helped free the Russian state from Tatar control. This was not empire yet, but it was the necessary beginning, a more unified Russian state with a stronger ruler at its core. Without that consolidation, later expansion would have been far harder. Ivan III gave Moscow the political weight to claim leadership over the Russian lands. Ivan IV, better known as Ivan the Terrible, pushed that centralization further. In 1547, he became the first Russian ruler formally crowned as Tsar of all Russia. The title mattered because it presented the ruler as more than a prince. A Tsar claimed sacred, absolute, imperial-style authority. Under Ivan and his successors, the Russian state expanded rapidly, especially eastward. From the mid-16th to the early 18th century, Russian territory grew at an extraordinary pace. This expansion was driven by warfare, colonization, frontier settlement, and the search for security and resources. Siberia opened vast new spaces, and Russia became a continental power long before it officially called itself an empire. The formal birth of the Russian Empire came under Peter the Great. In 1721, after victory in the Great Northern War, Russia was proclaimed an empire, and Peter took the title of emperor. But Peter's importance was not only symbolic. He wanted Russia to be accepted as a major European power, and he believed that required deep transformation. He reformed the military, strengthened the bureaucracy, promoted technical knowledge, and pushed the elite toward Western European habits and education. His most dramatic symbol was St. Petersburg, a new capital built facing the Baltic and Europe. It was meant to show that Russia was no longer a remote Eastern kingdom. It was now a European great power. Peter's reforms made the empire stronger, but they also revealed one of its central contradictions. Modernization came from above, by command, not through broad political participation. The state became more efficient, the army more capable, and the elite more Europeanized, but most ordinary people remained burdened by heavy obligations. The empire could build ships, raise armies, and construct a new capital, yet rural life stayed dominated by hierarchy and coercion. This pattern repeated throughout imperial history. Russian rulers often wanted the tools of modern power without accepting the political freedoms that came with modern society elsewhere. They wanted a stronger state, not necessarily a freer one. Catherine the Great continued the imperial project in the late 18th century. Her reign expanded Russia through conquest, diplomacy, and colonization, especially toward the west and south. Russia became more deeply involved in European power politics and gained influence in areas contested with the Ottoman Empire and neighboring states. Catherine also presented herself as an enlightened ruler, interested in law, reason, and reform. But the limits were clear. Autocracy remained intact, and serfdom continued to define the lives of millions. The empire's rulers could speak the language of progress while preserving a deeply unequal social order. That tension gave Russia prestige abroad but left unresolved problems at home. By the early 19th century, Russia was not only large, it was decisive in European affairs. Alexander I helped defeat Napoleon, which gave the empire enormous prestige. After the Napoleonic Wars, Russia became part of the conservative order trying to restrain revolution, liberalism, and secular political change across Europe. This role fit the interests of the Russian monarchy. It saw itself as a defender of autocracy, religion, and stability. But the same period also made Russia's political system look increasingly old-fashioned. Across Europe, people were debating constitutions, rights, nationalism, and representative government. Russia had helped defeat Napoleon, but it could not defeat the spread of new political expectations forever. The empire kept expanding during the 19th century, strengthening its control in the Caucasus, Central Asia, and parts of Northeast Asia. It had already reached across Siberia and once held Alaska. This expansion brought strategic depth and imperial prestige, but it also made the state more complicated. The 1897 census, the only full census the empire conducted, counted more than 125 million people. They included different religions, languages, legal traditions, and local identities. Governing such diversity required either flexible institutions or heavy control. The Russian Empire mostly chose central authority. That could work in quiet times, but it made discontent dangerous, because many different groups had reasons to resent the same imperial center. Military strength was central to the empire's identity, but war repeatedly exposed its weaknesses. Russia won important victories, especially in conflicts with the Ottoman Empire, and used war to expand influence around the Black Sea and beyond. Then came the Crimean War in the 1850s. Russia's defeat by a coalition including Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire was a shock. It revealed that Russia's size did not guarantee modern power. Its transport, military organization, technology, and administration lagged behind other European states. The defeat forced the ruling elite to confront a difficult problem. Russia needed reform to compete, but serious reform might weaken the autocracy that held the empire together. Alexander II responded with major reforms, especially the emancipation of the serfs in 1861. Around 23 million people were legally freed from serfdom, making it one of the most important social changes in Russian history. But freedom did not instantly solve Russia's rural problems. Many peasants received limited land, faced redemption payments, and remained tied to village communities. Other reforms improved courts, local administration, education, and the military, but political power still remained in the hands of the emperor. This created a dangerous half-step. The state admitted that change was necessary, but refused to share real authority. Reform raised expectations, and disappointed expectations often become revolutionary fuel. By the late 19th century, the empire was under pressure from below and above. Industrialization created a growing urban working class living under harsh conditions. Educated Russians debated liberalism, socialism, nationalism, and revolutionary ideas. The famine of 1891 to 1892 killed hundreds of thousands and damaged confidence in the government's competence. At the same time, Russia remained the last major absolute monarchy in Europe. Nicholas II inherited this unstable system and struggled to adapt. After the Revolution of 1905, he allowed the creation of the State Duma, a national parliament. But the concession was limited because ultimate power stayed with the emperor. To many reformers, it was too little. To radicals, it proved the system could not reform itself. World War I turned long-term weakness into immediate collapse. Russia entered the war on the Allied side, but the conflict brought military defeats, food shortages, supply failures, and enormous casualties. Soldiers lost faith, workers protested, and the monarchy's authority eroded. In 1917, the February Revolution forced Nicholas II to abdicate, ending the imperial monarchy. A provisional government replaced him, but it continued the unpopular war and struggled with disorder. Later that year, the Bolsheviks seized power in the October Revolution. Civil war followed, and from the ruins of empire came the Soviet Union. The Russian Empire did not fall because it was small or insignificant. It fell because a vast autocratic state could no longer contain the modern forces it had helped create. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.